Okay. Um, I don't- we're waiting on two board members who are doing something with one of the staff members. Uh, and so when they're done, we'll commence. So sorry for the delay. Hello and welcome to the November meeting of the Board of Education here at Alexander Local. Can we have roll?
Jay?
Yes.
Lucy? Yes. Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with that, I'll make a motion to adopt the agenda with the attached addendum with items C and D for board approval.
Seconded.
Roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. All right. So we have reports and comments. First, we have the superintendent's reports.
All right. For this agenda, there are 17 changes in policy that are being presented, but many of these are really they're grammatical changes, different edits, change in language, go from home instruction to home education, and when they make even those subtle changes, they do change the policy along the way, and those have to be voted on and accepted. There's a school closings policy that's still out there, and I'm waiting for clarification because we have some unique challenges in that we do not have remote access. And one of the policy changes that's being offered through the state relates to remote access for students. And so I've got to navigate the language and what that looks like. We've got to respect the contract that's currently in place. And so those are things that I'm going to have to work with our association, with our legal guidance and OSBA policy. So we want to make sure that our policies are correct, they're accurate, and on point. So we've got still some work to do to massage that. There are also some mentions of political note. And so the policies that are provided provide what's understood and offer it in clear language now, at least in our policies related to what's acceptable at school. Okay, we're not to be sharing our political views, not to be sharing our viewpoints, our fors or against, those kinds of things. But they are very clear that we're not to be wearing any clothing, have anything in our rooms, those kinds of things, buttons, pins, that designate a particular or support a particular point of view. So those are also pieces to it. The third grade reading guarantee, the changes to that's all been updated, the science of reading updates. A seizure plan, I still need to get with our school nurse to talk about that. And the continuation, try to continue to hire non-teaching subs. So we've got some policy clarifications that we do put into place and use, but many of these aren't going to impact school and how it functions, other than maybe the school closing policy, which I have to work through. And you guys will have a chance, if you have a chance, if you have not had a chance to look through those, ask me questions. I'll do what I can to clarify. A couple of things that aren't on the list, and I do this to Miss Kim all the time. I met today with Anna Corpy, and we talked about the playground. The playground committee has been very active. We actually are right at our goal for the first phase. We are at the point where we can order the matching equipment from Little Tykes. And so we have more than $86,000 already raised. The structures itself cost about $160,000. The Little Tykes grant is going to pay for half of that. So we have all of that in place. But to complete, the one thing that I want to talk to the board about, to complete the entire first phase, we've got like a $35,000 gap still, but we have 7 months to raise that. We don't feel that's going to be an obstacle. We have 4 grants that are still in motion. There are other grants that are come available at the beginning of the year. We think that we're easily going to make that. The thing that talking with the board about, and I don't know if we'll need a motion for this or at all, but it's just a conversation to have today, is that if we fail to cover that gap of $35,000, would the board be willing to supplement or support the difference? We wouldn't, at this point, know what that'd be, but somewhere between 0 and 35,000. We really believe that we're going to be able to raise that money. The grants that we have still in play that we'll find out about in December, most of those grants will close in December. They'll total well more than that. But there's still the chance that we would only get a fraction of those or pieces of those or not even get them at all. The urgency with some of this is the Little Tykes grant for us to have delivery of the equipment in June, which is probably the better month to build, not July. July is when everyone vacates, and I hope the school's empty in July so that everyone gets away and recharges. But if we can order, we can have the equipment delivered in June and do the community build, which is a big savings to us. People will likely still be here, or more likely be here, and be able to contribute. So that's kind of where we are with the playground. And I know this is quick, but if the Little Tykes grant is going to go and we're going to order and have it shipped by June, Ms. Corpy needs to order the full lot of equipment, I believe, by Friday. Questions?
I just wanted to add on because I've had plenty of conversations as well with Anna, and if you're listening, Anna, you're doing a heck of a job. Keep it up. Really is amazing. $86,000 in, I think it kicked off
like
September
3 months.
1st.
Yes.
That's unbelievable. I did check in with legal about would we have to agree or come to some action as a board, and no, we don't, because we don't know if there is going to be anything. I will say that I hope it doesn't come to it. I hope we can raise this all through the grants and the work that Anna and the entire committee are doing. But I will express my support to keep going and do it right. So we don't have to make any motion, but I do want to express my support of what she's doing, and it will be done. In my
Any other questions or comments about playground or all that action?
At one point, we had talked about we may have to do a resolution at some point too. I give permission to take over the playground to do the build. Do we need to do a resolution of that sort at any point?
I
Since
wouldn't
it's
think
board
so.
property?
It's our property. It's our project. We're a part of it. We're in support of it. I mean, unless you tell me differently, Mr. Regan.
that was part of the conversation I had with legal. Is we don't have to have a resolution for any of it.
Okay.
If they want to essentially gift us a playground, we just have to say thank you.
I'm willing to say thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think we all are.
And that the one thing legal advised, and I know we're doing this just to make sure everybody's aware, is making sure that our team is involved in the planning and everything, which is so that Brian McCullum and, knows the ins and outs of the regulations that the playground has to meet, and it's not just a standard, just buy equipment, put it in, but there's other regulations since it's on school grounds that it has to cover. And since we're doing that, there's really nothing legally we have to do at this junction, or really ever, if it's gifted to us. So.
Okay. Yep, there's just the bit of the urgency with the lead time. I mean, it's hard to believe it takes that long to get things together, but apparently it does. I had one other thing to talk about this evening, and it's coming up shortly. It'll come up before our next board meeting. We've got the Hall of Fame banquet, which is coming up on December 2nd. Tickets are available online on the Athletic Club site. It's a really nice event. We're going to have, last year we had our first event. We inducted 10 people into the Athletic Hall of Fame here at Alexander. You can see their plaques out there in the hall. This year we're going to induct another 10 people. It's more of a luncheon event. Doors open at 11:30 for a meet and greet social. 1 o'clock we'll serve a nice meal, and then everyone will be invited to watch a game that evening. So it's a really nice event. We had a wonderful turnout last year. People came from all over the country. I believe we have more people coming from all over the country this year. Having 2 classes of 10 is important. You want to seed these events to get the interest, build the interest and enthusiasm for them. But they'll start to peel some of that back a little bit in the class sizes that they induct. But at first, we're trying to cover a lot of bases. I don't know these athletes, but to hear the stories that are told just in the selection process is really, it's a ball to hear. And some of our best and brightest, and I don't see them here tonight, so I don't know where they are tonight. But Jerry and Roy and all those folks and Randy, they're all deeply involved in it. It's a nice event, and I encourage you to go. I think I'm done for the moment. So, yeah.
And I didn't see any public participation on agenda items. So, consent agenda, any items need to be removed or desired to be removed? Then I'll make a motion for the consent agenda.
Seconded.
Roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Under items for board approval, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the enclosed updated 5-year forecast as required by Ohio Revised Code 5705.391. So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion. Does anybody have any questions on, did you want to, you have the printout, were you going to go through a PowerPoint, or how did you want to?
I have one if you want. It's up to you guys.
I think, given the results of yesterday, I think it's very important that we be very clear, get as much information out there about what our forecast looks like. So I would love
I have a
for the
PowerPoint.
public to get as much information as they possibly can.
Okay. It is a 5-year forecast. They are projections. It's a planning tool used to make decisions. It's required by ODE, and we do it every 6 months. I want to start out and just show you the current year numbers. That's what we start with, the base with. So this is our projected revenue and expense, and then we have 1 million. That's for FY24. The next slide. This is the revenue, so it shows the breakdown. You see how our revenues come in. local taxes, state funding, all other revenue. Next slide is the expenses, and this is on, the state requires us to file this on the operating fund, so the general fund. So when you look at our expenses, it's a little off because we're unique and we have the, what we call the school-wide pool. So if you look down in the other expenses, there's a transfer down there of 5.2 million. About 5 million of that gets transferred to the school-wide pool. And what that does is we take general fund money, some more federal money, and kind of pull it together, and then it makes our federal expenditures a little bit more easy to use. So if we take that 5 million and break it down to where it really goes out of the transfers, onto the next slide, you can see that our expenses are really 78% personnel cost, not 53, because 5 million of that's getting transferred over here to be spent on salaries. Is that clear?
Salaries and benefits and
Yes,
all
salaries
other
and
associated?
benefits. Yeah,
Okay.
the whole personnel cost, yes. So the next slide shows, this is just the summary of the forecast. This is typically what you see. If you look at 24, you can see the revenue is just a little bit more than the expense, and then you get to 25, it is very close, and you start seeing those pink lines. That is the levy. If it would be renewed, that is the revenue that we would get. You can see where it's still a little bit of a shortfall. So the next slide shows the actual numbers in summary format. And again, these numbers as of today, and their projections, and the further out you predict, the harder it is. So, you know, the state budget is 2 years, so in 25 it's going to change again. But these are based off trends and history and projections. So it's a good planning tool, but it's not. They are projections. Make sure everybody understands that. And if you look at the bottom of the first little box, you can see, like, this is with the renewing of the levy. In 28, we're at 10 million in cash. Without the levy, the very bottom line, we're at 3 million. So it depends if the community wants to support it or not. That's where we're at, projected.
Just something I just feel worth stating right now is that a while back I looked at numbers, and I would love for you to check me on this, so I just want to state it. But typically, the average cash balance that a school district holds towards its budget is roughly 50% average on statewide. So having a $10 million cash balance to a $20 million annual budget is statewide average. That is something that I was looking into. We're finally getting to where the rest of the state typically sits, as opposed to sitting at a fraction of our annual budget in our cash balance. It's just something that I found interesting, and I know there's a website that you guys can see that.
Okay.
And I would like to see if you could grab those numbers.
Yeah, definitely check on that.
to let
I've
people
not read
know.
that myself, but yeah.
That was something
I will check.
Aaron Sherm and I were looking through a while back, of just looking at what is the typical cash balance to budget ratio. Because at the end of the day, that's our, if you want to say, cushion, is what we're fighting for. And so trying to look at that, and it was a while ago, this was 3 years ago, that me and him sat down and looked at every state, every school in the state, and looked at cash balance. And at that time, we were in the, I think, I would like to say, I think we were in the bottom 10%.
Yeah,
And at this point, we would probably be around the 50% mark.
okay.
So it was just an interesting.
Yeah, I'd like to read
Tidbit.
that.
Is it right that you're expecting revenues to go down regardless of the levy? When I'm looking at that last slide, I see revenue, and then I see 2026, what it is, then 2027, 2028. Seems like it's going down.
Yeah, I mean, our revenue is flat. It's pretty straight. The fair school funding plan is not helpful to us. We're just not seeing any increases in that, so, yeah.
But you're
That's-
anticipating almost $1.5 million less in revenue from the state? Is that what you're asking?
Well,
It's a deficit.
Generally speaking, you
just-
know, when you look at that slide, the revenue starting in 2026 is going down and continues to go down. And I was just trying to understand, I mean, is that just based on you're expecting state funding to
Yeah,
be pretty much flat?
Yeah,
I think it's the deficit. We start running into a deficit at that point. The expenditures catch up and exceed what we'd be able to get. Is it the
Interest payments? I
is it
mean,
the middle line here?
no, I'm
Is that what
talking
you're
about
getting at?
revenue.
Revenue.
just the
He's straight
Great.
up.
Revenue.
So it's
straight up.
Be the
5.
second set of numbers across.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, he
It's
said
at 21, drops to 19.7. Okay.
And I do have the interest going down. I mean, right now, we're getting a lot of interest. I don't foresee that to carry out forever, but I can't predict either, so I may be wrong. And we'll look at it in 6 months and change, yeah. Yeah. But yeah, we're getting good interest right now. The last slide is scary prediction, but that's where we're lying at in 28 if we have no renewal. So it shows cash on hand. In 24, we have about 214 days to that balance that you were talking about, the 10 million. But you can see as it dwindles down, it's with no levy, no renewal.
And that kind of is the baseline that Aaron Sherman and I were looking at back when, and that's
Yeah.
cash on hand is your cushion.
Yes.
So, yeah. Any other discussion items?
Just quickly, so on the forecast, it kind of goes to, I guess what I had been, if you want to call it preaching, I'll preach. We cannot sustain what we are doing at the current level without the levy. That is 100%
Fact.
fact. If you look at Kim's projections for the up to 5 years, we are in a pretty big deficit spending situation when we get to 2028. Now, we as a board and administration, there's going to be changes. I mean, you can't see this train wreck coming in 2028 and do absolutely nothing until then. I mean, by then it's going to be too late. So just to keep preaching, it is the levy for us is a significant source of our annual revenue that allows us to provide a lot of the services that the community and the parents are used to in the school. And when you start trying to take away $4 million, I'll just round it up to $4 million. We all know, I mean, inflation is crazy right now. The schools, and we're not immune to that. Everything that we're buying is higher. In turn, salaries and wages, our employees need increases because they can't live on zero increases. So it's a snowball effect. And I mean, the levy is vital.
I think we're going to discuss the levy a little bit later here. But if you go back to 6, 7 years ago when we first tried the levy, you've heard us say we're flat funded, we're flat funded, we're flat funded. That has not changed. So try operating your household on the same dollars you made 6, 7 years ago with today's inflation. It's not sustainable. So with that, I'll get off my soapbox and quit preaching. But I hate to be a broken record, but I want to be kind of blunt so that the community knows that if changes happen, I don't want someone to come to me and say, why, I had no idea. It's just not sustainable. I'm not going to say what we're going to do because none of us know what changes are going to take place, if, when. But with what Kim has forecasted, and I think we all expected this, I did anyway, we have to make changes, and we have to rally behind the kids and try to support the levy the next time. Thank you.
Roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. Item B, it's recommended that the Board of Education approve the enclosed resolution authorizing the purchase of competitive retail natural gas service from the lowest responsible bid submitted to Meta Solutions for the period commencing July 2025 and terminating no later than June 2030.
So moved.
Second. No. Discussion. Roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. Item C, this is on the addendum for those following. Item C, it's recommended that the Board of Education employ the following pending their meeting all state and local requirements. We have Tolan Arnold, custodian, and Tammy Vickers, substitute custodian.
So moved.
Seconded.
Discussion, as always, the custodian replacement. Roll.
Jay?
Yes.
Lucy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Josh?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. Item D, it's recommended the Board of Education approve the enclosed resolution requesting certification of alternative tax rates for a renewal income tax. So moved.
Second.
Discussion.
Yeah, can we just clarify what we're doing for the public?
That's what it is. Okay, so, again, this is,
Came today.
what's that?
It just came today.
It just came today.
Yeah.
So, as, we had to do, what was that, in June? July?
Yeah, June or July.
End of June, July, we have to create a resolution before the levy gets to the ballot. And that deadline will be, I think, December 8th, which is before our next regular scheduled board meeting. So this is to essentially start that process to get the levy on the ballot for March. Again, this is a renewal of the levy at the exact same 1% of earned income. And this would be not doubling down, but this is just the extension of the current 5 years. Once the 5 years are over, then this would kick in, and there wouldn't be no pause in that funding.
Doesn't commit us to anything other than we're declaring our intent.
Yes.
So it leaves it open for us, doesn't require us to have a special meeting or anything like that between now and our regular meeting.
No.
This just puts it out there.
Yep. This is the first reading.
As a second part of that question, if we were to change any of these terms, type of tax, amount, whatever, would we have to go through this first step again, or
Yes.
is the second
Yes.
step?
Yes.
Okay. So then I guess the third part of my question before we vote on this is there any appetite to change things, or are we all stuck on, or I shouldn't say stuck on, are we all committed to staying to these terms that, and renewing what we have.
Keep what we have.
That gets, my question would be, the forecast I know is a 5-year forecast. It's impossible to guess what's going to happen 5 years down the road. I fully understand that. And do we believe the current income tax rate is that 10% essentially of our annual budget will carry us for those 5 years? Is that a rate is that funding stream, is that what is needed to stay where we're at?
I mean, based on the numbers, you can start to see it decline. The revenue and the expenses change, where the expenses exceed the revenue in the later years. Now, that goes again back to what Jay said about that's if everything stays as it is.
Right.
If we remain unchanged. And I will tell you now that is an impossibility because we cannot remain as we are. We've known we're going to be making changes. Whether the failure of the levy is the tipping point for those is debatable, but we knew we were going to have to make some changes regardless. So the levy itself, projected out, does not sustain the expenses as they are. So we will have to change. I don't know that I would pursue changing the amount to elevate the amount asked for. I mean, it's up to the board. That would be a no.
It'll be a no from me.
Okay. But I think people at least have experience with this. They can anticipate this. They can plan for this. They know what it is. Switching to a property tax would be a whole different animal.
I agree. I'm just looking for the statement to be out there. And
Yep.
that's literally,
There you go.
I'm looking for the statement to be out there.
There
And
you
so the idea that even the 1% really doesn't meet isn't increasing to the extent that but that's our baseline.
That is our baseline at the moment, and it gives us puncher's chance to make it through.
Understand?
Yeah.
Thank you. Good?
Anything else?
Yeah, just Kim, I had emailed Kim back and forth today about, so the Ohio, next year's general election, presidential election, so Ohio's primary was moved to March. Is that correct?
Always in a presidential election, it's March, so then there's no
So-
May primary.
So there is no May
Yes,
primary.
It'll just be March and November.
Okay.
So that's why we have to do it in December and move it up.
If
because
we
of
put
the-
it on in March, is there any other date other than the general election for the second one? Or do we have to put it on in March? I know there's a narrow option for August, but I don't know what the rules are. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
Do you know?
I don't know exactly what the
Okay.
rules are
Did it-
to do that, but
I don't know
yeah,
that well
it
enough
would-
to.
Did legal, they just said it needed to be March?
yes, that's
Okay.
their recommendation.
Okay. Okay.
You know it costs
Yes. it costs
extra.
substantially,
It costs,
a
it's
special-
substantial more because
Yes.
you're
That's what
essentially
we did
paying
it-
for the cost. Yep.
Yeah, we did it in
We
May
did it.
last time,
Yep.
and that was when it passed.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think last time it was probably $30,000, and I know
Yes.
that was an uproar, but when you got $2.2 million here versus a $30,000 expense, I'm gonna spend that money to try to get the levy passed.
Yep.
So, yes, I just wanted to make sure, because I know we're only allowed to put it on the ballot twice. And one of
Twice
them
in
has,
1 year.
twice in 1 year,
Okay.
one of them has
Yes.
to be the general.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so we can find that out. This is just
Yes,
a reading.
absolutely.
Okay. And then just to be
Just to
clear
start the
for the
process.
public, I mean, the levy failed last night, and this is legal stuff that we have to do, vote on to potentially put it on the ballot again next year, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Roll.
Jay,
Yes.
Josh? Yes. Lucy?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Blake?
Yes. Business initiated by board members. Board board reports. We had a public participation, and I don't have, and she just walked away, didn't she?
Should we grab
She
the
went
paper?
to the restroom,
She went to the restroom.
I think.
Do we have?
There was someone, Ellen. Yeah, there's one, and she just walked away. Do not. Yeah. So, while we wait for Ms. Hillen to come back, the next scheduled board meeting will be December 13th. Does anybody have any issues? No?
Nope.
I do not want to go to executive session, but at this point, I guess we'll take a unknown recess amount until. Ms.
I
or
can
better just
follow
do-
her
yep,
lead
yep.
and,
We'll
I'll be
recess
back
until
myself.
Ms. Hillen. We'll be back. No point in sitting here waiting. Thank you. Keep going. All right. All right, we're back. For public participation on non-agenda items, we have Ms. Erica Hillen.
Well, first, I was just wanting to touch base on the issue I brought up last board meeting in regards to the cameras. I also was not aware of this until someone else brought it to my attention of the lack of cameras actually outside the building. I walked the property line yesterday. There were only 4. The main entrances for the elementary and the high school, and then the gymnasium and behind the gym. The one behind the gym only looks at what's to, I'm guessing, like a stockyard or something, equipment and things. But there were none around any of the playgrounds, especially the younger playgrounds for the elementary and over here at the pre-K. There are no cameras whatsoever. The back one or the one on here on the side? The back one? Okay, well then I must have missed that one, so 5 cameras then. But with that being said though, how would the school be able to become aware of a dangerous figure on the property? Just wait for him to walk by the window and hope somebody notices? How would the school actually be informed of somebody on property or within the vicinity of harming the kids or the building or anyone else?
I think I spend more time looking at cameras than just about anybody, unfortunately, as part of my job. And there are actually several that coat the front of the building and the parking lots,
Okay.
the side parking lot, and there is some that show the rear. I hate to say where everything is. That seems like not a
No,
safe
please,
option.
because I quite literally drove around yesterday and I walked the property and I looked for some and I was like, well, these are the only ones I've noticed, the only ones I've been aware of.
Yeah, the elementary playground actually has a couple different angles.
Okay.
And then there's some more in the back and some more in the front as well.
Okay. What about possibly getting a camera anywhere around like the football field, where it seems a lot of students are having issues, like behind the football field? Okay. Because I wasn't aware of any back there, like behind the bleachers or anything. I would hope not. That's why I went looking for myself, because it wasn't like I was going to find a blueprint about that. But it was still concerning that there was very little that I could notice, let alone what parents are noticing the lack thereof. Next thing I was going to say would be, is there any kind of budget laid out? Is there any plans, any ball rolling as far as getting more cameras, staff, whatever it is that you may need? And with the bomb threat, did that open up any insight into vulnerabilities that's being taken care of? I did hear, I spoke to Mr. Ramsey. It was nice speaking to him about working with the OU police. That was wonderful to hear. That's beautiful. Okay, well, that pretty much brings up all I wanted to do was just do a run through and a follow up. Guess that's all I had to say.
Thank you.
Mhm.
All right, for that, hold on a second. I don't have the wording. Do you have, this is old. Yeah, I don't have the wording in front of me. Oh, there it is. I don't know. That's not on there, is it? On this one? No, all right. No, it's not on my copy. I must have printed off the wrong copy. The old copy. All right. All right, so I will make a motion to enter executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of an employee, a public employee or official. Looking for a second. Roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you. There will be no action afterwards, so thank you. I'll make a motion for adjournment.
Second.
Roll.
Yes.
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 Yes. Thank you, everybody.